I'm so impressed with how clearly you communicated to us this learning experience that you developed. And I know that those who are going to be have an opportunity to see this tape will benefit from this. It's so important that our teachers understand how much time and effort it takes to develop a learning experience and planning it out so it is quality nature.
Can I piggyback onto that? As a teacher, having done stuff like this and seen other teachers do stuff like this whenever they bring their work or student work to the table, you've put your so many hours of your own work in. It's hard for me when I present, for example, not to make it 35 pages long. And I was particularly impressed with how concise and yet clear you were in your verbal presentation and the written presentation that you had here.
I wondered how parents responded, because you can get such a clear idea so quickly of the whole process, at least the way you presented it here, and then to see the actual sample of your child's book right there before you. Not sure whether they had any opportunity to hear their children do the author's chair, but I wondered about that as well.
I can speak.
Sure.
They did not during the time where we were doing the pictures. However, we just had parent-teacher conferences last week, and I met with the parents, and I shared with them the students' work, and they were floored, especially the students that I had last year in my classroom who were non-writers. They cried, they did anything they could not to write. And I had parents that were almost in tears that they were so proud that their children have accomplished something that used to be such a hardship on them. They would really cry when they had to write. So I think the parents were very pleased.
I was wondering, suppose you learned, like, when you were first introducing the learning experience, that some kids had read the children's book already. Would that have thrown you off, or?
A little bit.
You were pretty sure they hadn't read it.
I was pretty sure they hadn't, but really,
sure.
We never know. But I was more concerned with the fact that they might, since they knew about the book, try to get it later on in the process. But actually, they told me that they did not read it, and they were just so excited because they knew that we would be reading it at the end, that it kind of kept them, I think, from going forth and trying to find the story. And they knew that we were going to read it, and they knew it was something special. And it was an activity that people, a lot of times we meet in the hallway at my school, so people were walking by, they wanted to know what they were doing, and people kind of kept them hyped up about it because they were sitting and they were working and they were not saying a word. They just wanted to write, and they wanted to color, and they wanted to do what they wanted to do. And I think it was a great experience for me as well as for them.
I also think that speaks to sort of the exposure to literature that your children have at 2nd grade, because I know I've read that book to my 2-year-old son, and so it also speaks to the level of writing now and analysis that they're doing when they haven't been exposed to the literature. And I was also curious, you've obviously presented this at first level peer review to your colleagues. Have you found that the classroom teachers are now utilizing this model? I know you're an intervention teacher at the school, and it would be great if the classroom teacher also piggybacks on what you're doing with the writing.
They haven't yet, but I know that many teachers have spoken to me about their interest in wanting to do something, and if I would work with them to try to get it kick-started within their rooms. But as of right now, we haven't done anything like that yet.
I want to just make one more acknowledgement of the authenticity of this project. I always struggle as a teacher to try to make my assessments be authentic, so I can kind of stifle those, why are we doing this, what does this matter? And from the very beginning opening questions you had through the whole process, they were doing the work of a writer as a writer does that work. Now granted, other writers, well, I don't know, I think maybe other writers do have an illustrator they work with who might have an idea and then they work on the text. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well.
So this might be a good time now to talk about the process, less about the learning experience and more about we should ask you, Kim, first. How did this feel to do this?
Well, it's just very interesting because it's nice to meet with a group of people that have different ideas and different aspects and come from different backgrounds to kind of meet all together and get feedback about something I did. It's not just me thinking this is great. It's other people discussing things and giving me pointers and giving me a like things that I can add on to the future, and I just really enjoy it as a learning experience for me as a teacher.
How about for the reviewers? How did the protocol feel? I know it's artificial. Did the artifice bother anyone?
Well, I like that you personally, I like that you kind of like nab me on the sandwiching warm and cool feedback together, because I think that's, as someone who's presented before, it really does help when you get, okay, this is something that is either something I have a question about or something that is, a suggestion, a cool feedback. But here's something that's just straight up good. And then sometimes when it's mixed together, I think people want to be nice and say, oh, I don't want to just give that out. But I appreciated the check on that. And I don't know if you did. I don't know how you hear it in terms of the warm and cool separation, but I appreciated it.
How did you hear the I mean, does
just
when you
reminded me
get
of
cool, does it sting, or?
It doesn't sting because, as I said before, this is a learning process, and it's just nice to hear how other people might do things. And just when he checked you, it reminded me of the first peer review when I was being a little defensive, and they're like, oh, stop being so defensive. So it just brought me back to that time. I'm like, okay, it's not just me.
Interesting. David?
I think the size is nice, and kind of counteracted maybe a little bit of the artificiality of doing this and having it taped. After the first couple of minutes, it did feel like 6 people having a conversation about one teacher's work and her students' work. So I think, to me, and you got a sense not just of Kim and her work and her students, of course that's the focus, but also of the other people around the table and the perspectives they brought. You heard enough from them. So that it felt more like a natural conversation.
I appreciate that this protocol really allows for you to make your work transparent. So certainly I can hear about the quality experience that you provide your students, and also thinking about other teachers who will be able to benefit from your presentation. That it really met one of the goals of having. The reason why we have protocols is to have a structured, focused experience, but also to help you make your work transparent for others.
I'll just add 2 more things.
Sure.
Just because I am a teacher right now, too, is that a high school teacher, but I'm already trying to think of how I may adapt something like this for my students. And so I just, I think that that's part of this, what makes this process so rich for me is that I can selfishly use right away what I've learned, as well as the facilitation techniques and ways that people frame things. So every time I do this, I gain skills as a professional. And I also appreciate, I just want to acknowledge the writing aspect, because I could have talked about this for another 20 minutes, I think, easily. And I like knowing that, if I don't get to everything I wanted to say, I can always write my comments down and know that they'll be heard and seen at some point.
I was just thinking about the intellectual challenge, which is one of our criterion. For me, discovering the bear. Oh, there's the bear, and was to engage, I think, in the kind of narrative underpinnings of this piece in a way that second graders did, and I was delighted. I was delighted intellectually to find the bear and to think about the bear problem.
I want to read the book.
I do too.
It's such a great book.
Well, if we had more time, maybe.
Well, at this point in the protocol, you probably want to take a stretch break, and the reviewers need to record their dominant impressions with respect to the criteria, and then we'll call you back, and we'll let them go, and Mary Grace and you and I are going to sit down, and, well, actually, first Mary Grace is going to check her summary as a recorder with the reviewers, and then we're going to say goodbye to them, and we're just going to confirm. We're going to conclude the review with that conferring. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.